I'm very excited about today's breathwork. We're doing Transmutation Breathwork, and it's a very nice, simple technique, but it's extremely powerful. So we're really going to work with, taking the energy in our body, obviously, which relates also to the emotions that we hold in our bodies. And we are going to use the breath to transmute those. So we're going to start off with talking a little bit about this technique and how it works and what some of the principles are behind it. And then we'll go into a nice long breathwork session where we can really do that deep work. Obviously working in person with people is the most powerful, but somehow, when we're on these Zoom sessions together, when our energies kind of focus together in the same time, in the same moment, we really can sort of share the energy. We really are creating a collective energy. So even though we're all in our different places, in different parts of the world, just the fact that we're kind of focusing our energy here really does make it possible for us to do the shifts. And nothing can replace the in-person experience. But given that we're all souls and we're all on a spiritual path together, really focusing in the energy for this group really does make it as powerful. So I really do think we're going to do some very powerful work today. We've got a few new people here, and what's always powerful about the breath work, very specifically on this theme, is that when we work with the breath, we're taking the ethereal, we're breathing in the prana energy, which is kind of that ethereal spiritual aspect which connects all of us. That prana energy is also the energy that feeds our physical body, it feeds our soul. So what we're doing with the breathwork is we're taking that energy and we're putting it into our bodies in a very visceral way. So again, that's kind of another reason why the breathwork is always so powerful, no matter where you are when you do it, is because we're taking that source, that prana, putting it into our bodies. Because that prana is a higher frequency energy, we're putting that energy into our bodies, and that is doing its own thing. It's an intelligent energy that knows what's needed in order for us to shift and in order for us to sort of put our body, our emotions, our whole energy system, our lives back into balance. So in a moment, we're going to do a 20 breaths just to get ourselves settled. It looks like everyone is here. So we'll go into a 20 breaths with a short visualization. And then we'll draw a card for the group, so that gives a little bit more information about what this is about and what we're doing. And then we'll talk about the session. I'll explain the model a little bit, and then we'll go into the breathwork experience. We'll do about 40 to 50 minutes of the breathing. So it really does give us enough time to go into a very deep space with the breath, with ourselves. But with this 20 breaths, we're going to work a little bit with what it is that you're going to transmute or want to transmute. And this can be something in your life in general. It can be kind of outside or apparently outside factors that you want to take to a higher frequency. That's basically what transmute means. Transmutation means taking a lower frequency and letting that be transformed, but transformed in such a way that it changes state. It becomes something else. It's no longer, transformation kind of implies, you've got different bits and they're kind of put together in a particular way. When you transform, you change the form, you move it around to be more, to be in sync with a higher frequency. But when you transmute, you're actually not just shifting around the forms, you're changing the state, you're changing it into something else, so that it actually becomes a source of healing and a source of power. And that's specifically what we're going to work with today. Very briefly as a start, before we go into the 20 breaths, what we're doing here is we're going to take all of the negativity that's in us, or all the parts that are out of sync. We're going to put them into a symbolic cauldron or receptacle that we're going to put in our stomachs. Visualize that we have this receptacle in our stomachs. which is the place, of course, where we digest, where we can process any of the negative energies or the toxins or the old emotions that we no longer need. We just breathe those into that cauldron that we hold in the stomach. And then, certainly with the breathwork process we'll do later, that energy in that cauldron then becomes transmuted through the breath, through the prana, and that cauldron then becomes a source of healing energy. So we've taken the low, dense frequencies and we're sort of concentrating them, and then we're changing their state. Instead of being something toxic, they become a source of healing. So it's very powerful. We really feel this in the body. And when I've practiced this technique, I've really felt this as a sort of a source of heat that spreads throughout the body to take the healing to where it is needed. But it's a very simple process. You don't need to get your heads involved with this. You don't need to understand 100%. The important thing always with this is to breathe. But having given you that brief outline of what the technique is, we're going to now do 20 breaths to get ourselves prepared and in the right mode, and to maybe get some of the doubts out of the way, so that we can do the breath work as a full experience without the head being involved. So let's all just close our eyes. For this 20 breaths, we do 1 long breath, then 4 short breaths. You can just follow me. So let's start with a long, deep breath through the nose if possible. And 4 short breaths. Long. 4 short. Another set. One last long one. Hold it in a little bit and then sigh it out. And now just keep your eyes closed. Just feel your body as it is, whatever's coming up. If there are unpleasant sensations, blockages, feel them just as they are without judging them or trying to change them. And this also goes for any pleasant or expansive sensations. Just take note of where in the body you're feeling energy on a physical level. Pleasant or unpleasant, blocked or flowing. Just feel what's happening in your body. Allow your body to give you feedback as to what's happening on the densest level of your being. And perhaps you just want to give a word to some of those sensations. Maybe if there's a blockage, maybe there's a word or an association that comes up for you. If it's a pleasant feeling or a flow of energy, give that a word as well. What does that feel like? Maybe even where does that come from? Now feel your emotions, the emotions of the last 24 hours, the expansive emotions, as well as the blocked emotions. the emotions that are holding you back, that prevent you from fully being your true self. The emotions that contract, link you to your past. Just take note of them, and if there are these emotions, be they expansive or contracting, feel where in the body they sit. Remembering that your body is like a feedback system. It's also a place where energy is stored in the cells, in the different body parts, the organs. So usually there's an association between the body and the emotions. Just take note of those. Let them be there without trying to change them. And now take a deep breath. Become aware of your mind, the thoughts that obsess you, the thoughts that distract you. It might be sounds that take you out of yourself, or maybe it's something that's just on your mind in general, maybe even anxiety or guilt or fear that's related to a thought, a projection of a thought into the future. Just take a deep breath to come back into yourself, to be in this present moment without any of those thoughts getting in the way. And maybe there's some of these thoughts that are impacting your body and your being. There might be a thought associated with a particular emotion or experience. Just take note of some of those thoughts that are preventing you from being your true self, from being the best version of yourself. And now integrate your body, your mind, your emotions by way of your spiritual connection, and feel that as the presence of your soul or higher self in the air around you. It's also the prana energy that you breathe. So consciously now breathe in. Take in this energy of your soul, of prana, of the divine, filling your body up, allowing yourself to be whole. As this soul presence, as this prana goes into every nook and cranny in your body, in your being, is absorbed into every pore, every cell. The soul presence rejuvenates you, energizes you, wipes the slate clean. And the soul presence that is in you and around you might feel like love and gratitude and joy. You might experience it as light, upliftment. It might also just be a sense of great peace, a deep inner knowing of who you are, what your purpose is, what's right for you in your life. Just communing with your soul, with the divine. this brings a sense of quiet, of joy, of you returning to source, returning to who you really are. Now as you sit here, experience your soul, feel your body. Visualize in your stomach area like a cauldron or a bowl or a receptacle. And this is a tool of transmutation. Feel it energetically, like a receptacle that can take in and hold and receive negative energy. And this receptacle is big enough, strong enough, powerful enough to hold the negative energy and to transmute it, to process it. So maybe this cauldron is made of a mystical substance like gold or a high frequency of light or something else that the mind cannot fathom. But however you experience this, kind of feel it in your stomach. And this is symbolic, it is a metaphor that we're working with, yet at the same time it's an energy that we're creating. So either you feel it, or otherwise if you don't feel it, imagine what it would feel like to have this transmuting receptacle in you. Of course, this receptacle is held, guided by your soul, your higher self, which always knows what's best for you. So trust that whatever work we do with this cauldron is filled with the presence, the love, the wisdom, the guidance, the protection of your soul. And as you sit with this cauldron, aware of this higher frequency within you, perhaps you imagine now some of those negative energies that you felt before, and just let them trickle into the cauldron. Flowing in from different parts of your body. Maybe it's thoughts in your head that you just allow to filter down. Might be emotions held in your body, or a heaviness of heart, or anxiety in your stomach. Visualize little streams of this negativity going into the cauldron in order to be transmuted. And this process now is just the preliminary process, setting up the model, the visuals. Later on we'll do the deep energy work via the breath. Now, see channels, streams opening, leading to that cauldron. If you don't feel all that much at this point, that's fine. the breath work will fully ground this energy. For now, have the willingness and the openness to have this receptacle within you that can transmute and heal. So sitting with this, aware of the energy, now you can just take a deep breath. Just keep breathing in this way. With every breath, you're taking energy down into the cauldron, or up from your feet into the cauldron. Every breath draws the energy to this center in your stomach and deposits any of the negativity there. So every breath is charged. Every breath carries a little bit of that negativity, of what it is that you want to release. So every inhale takes the energy down, and every exhale now, I just want you to imagine that the exhale gives a little stir within that cauldron. So if you imagine that the cauldron itself is a higher frequency energy, when you bring that negativity into the cauldron, it's deposited there, and then that exhale just gives it a little stir, meaning that that negativity is diluted a little bit, or it's mixed in a little bit better with some of that higher frequency energy. So the inhale takes it into the cauldron, the exhale gives it a stir, loosening the energy, making transmutation possible. So just take a few more breaths, familiarizing yourself with this. At first it might take a little bit of mental effort, but we're creating the intention for this to work effectively for you in this way. Keep the breath going, keep practicing what this may feel like. And now you can just start to return. You can just stop your breathing. Take a few moments just to feel what this feels like. And gently wiggle your fingers and toes. And then just return. Back in the room, ready to go into the session. Good. So we'll just start off by doing a card, drawing a card for the session and what this might relate to, not only today but also in the week ahead, because of course always a breathwork session is not about what we do in the actual session only. It's also very much about the time following a session and what comes up. So there we have the goddess Phoebe. She's the goddess of intuition, the goddess of a deeper inner knowing. And intuition always relates to the waters within ourselves, the waters in ourselves that connect us to sort of the cosmic ocean of knowing, which is where intuition comes from. Our personal emotions are kind of a more microcosmic, a more personal experience of emotion, but intuition is more of a collective experience where we are not limited to our direct experience, to what we see and feel directly. It links us into a collective. And that's why intuition obviously can give us insights into things beyond ourselves. And that cosmic ocean isn't only about, let's say, a human collective, it's also a soul collective, it's also a divine collective. So with that card, the Phoebe card, we are connecting to that higher frequency of emotion. And of course, our theme for this month is Poseidon, this god of the ocean behind me. Poseidon is the god of the sea, but more specifically, the god of the deeper layers that exist within ourselves and in the world outside. The god Poseidon is also the god of earthquakes and storms. And usually in our lives, if we take the metaphor of the ocean, we kind of associate with the waves and the turbulence on the surface, and we kind of get stuck in this. And when we allow ourselves to go deeper into those deeper currents, into that broader mass of water, which symbolically relates to our emotions, we can expand beyond the personal and the short-sightedness that emotions can sometimes represent. And then we can get in touch with those deeper currents. And again, those deeper currents connect us to our intuition. The deeper currents connect us to the knowing of who we really are, or what we should be doing, or what's right for us at a particular time in our lives. So it's this connection to that deeper aspect that's really important in this model that we're going to be working with today. The basic idea is that when we breathe, in a moment, we're going to lie down. I will give you some time also to set up your bed if you need to, maybe switch on your speaker so that you've got more of a surround sound experience while you breathe. But in doing this breath work, we're going to start off by, as I explained in the visualization we did a moment ago, the in-breath just takes the negativity down or up from the feet, into the center of the cauldron. We will work with the stomach as our center. The stomach is, again, the place where we digest. It's also the hara, which is our kind of center. That's the point from which we also manifest into the world. We kind of take energy through us, and it's through the solar plexus, the center, that we manifest into the world. So that's why we put the cauldron symbolically into the stomach. So the first half, more or less, of this breath work that we're going to be doing is going to be about just taking the negativity, the denser energies into that receptacle, and just seeing how the denser energies are deposited there, how they sit there, and then, as I said, we give them a little bit of a stir. So it's like stirring the pot, stirring the cauldron. We're stirring in the negative energies with the higher frequency energies that are what the cauldron is about. It's that higher frequency of transmutation, of taking something from a lower state to a higher state. So when we do this breathing, you don't need to necessarily know what emotions you want to work with. You don't need to have any thoughts involved in this experience. It's just about saying and setting the intention for yourself that every breath just takes a little bit more into the cauldron. And you might really feel it. And it's always great when you can feel it in your body. So you might have a sensation in your heart that you want to just breathe down into that cauldron. You don't need to put an emotion to it. So it could be purely physical, or otherwise it could be purely emotional or purely mental energy that you just consciously take down into that cauldron. Breathing it down into the cauldron, giving it a stir to start the transmutation process. Then the second half of the breath work will be where we're no longer taking the energy down, but we will rather then be working on transmuting that energy that's sitting in the cauldron, turning it into something else, turning it into a source of healing, turning it into a source of power that can then spread into our body and our being. And, when I've practiced this breath work, for me, what's come up every time is by the end of the session, I have a great heat in my stomach that then kind of flows and spreads throughout the body. It won't necessarily be that way for you, but that might be something nice to bear in mind while you do the breath work towards the end, is to have either this heat or light or love that's really focused in that cauldron, so that it can then spread and transmute the rest of your body. And one of the principles, I guess, that we can use to explain this is, if we use the metaphor of wood and fire, wood itself is like the dense expression of material being, our experience. So we can sort of imagine that when we're breathing the negativity into the cauldron, we're kind of putting wood in there as well. And then when we transmute it, that wood ignites and it burns, and then it becomes a source of light. But in order for that source of light to take place or to ignite, we do need that denser material. We need the fuel to make it possible for the light to emerge. And that's why this process is very powerful, is because we're taking physical stuff in our cells, in our bodies, daily experiences, daily emotions, things that are very tangible, putting them into that receptacle of transmutation, letting the energy in there get denser and denser, and perhaps uncomfortable, perhaps we really experience it very powerfully in some way, sitting in the stomach, maybe as a knot or as a heaviness. And then the point will come where the energy shifts and it gets so dense that it almost compresses into like a diamond, like compressing coal or carbon into a diamond. It goes from a very dense state and is transmuted into a higher frequency, which is a diamond. Diamonds can be sort of artificially created by compressing carbon and transmuting, changing state into something that can hold and carry light, as opposed to being, the darkest form, which is kind of coal or carbon. That's just another metaphor for how this breath work goes. So, the first half of this session is really about putting everything negative into that place. Don't be scared to experience it. Don't feel that it's going to overwhelm you. The symbolism of the cauldron itself is that is your protection anyway. So take the negativity, put it into that place of protection, which is held by the soul. And then by the end of the session, we transmute that and turn that into light, turn it into a higher state. That's just kind of the explanation, the mental and sort of imagery explanation of what it is that we're going to be doing today. You don't need to really think about that too much or give that too much energy while you're breathing. Breathing is always about the breathing, because the breathing gets you out of your head. It allows you to balance your thoughts and emotions. And then when we have these intentions, like we've already created, those intentions can then sort of really be played out and manifested via the breath. The breath is the vehicle that makes the thoughts, literally taking the ethereal, the thoughts, putting them into the body in a very solid, tangible way. The breath itself feeds us. It gives the body something back. It gives it nutrition. But the breath is also intelligent. It knows what you need. It knows what's important for you. So therefore, trust that process and let it work into the body, into your being. And the basic principle of this work is, of course, when your body resonates a certain frequency, that is what it's going to attract into your life. So as we work with this transmutation on a very physical level, we're going to be attracting, resonating something different in our day-to-day lives afterwards. So how the breathing goes, it's very simple. We want to keep the breath connected. So it will look like this. So it's a constant flow. The in-breath becomes the out-breath. We don't want a pause in between, so we don't want this. We want to keep it going. And in the beginning, that might feel like a little bit of effort. It might feel sometimes frustrating, or your throat might get dry, or you might need to put a lot of work in. That's fine. Usually that sensation of putting in a lot of work, of a little bit of struggle, takes about 15 minutes, because that is the time that it takes, more or less, via the breath to move from sort of a left-brained ego state into a right-brained place where you're in connection with the divine, where you are able to access the unconscious, and where you enter trance. So the first bit might feel like a bit of work, but once you do enter the trance, the breathing becomes effortless and easy, it flows, and then you are carried by the experience. So it's really important, even once you do enter the trance, to keep the breath going, to keep it strong, to keep it conscious. Towards the end, your breathing might become a little bit slower, but do keep it connected. So, it might become more of a but the important thing there is just to keep the flow going, to keep the breaths connected, the inhale and the exhale connected. The other thing that might come up is there might be a strong feeling of discomfort or blockage or whatever in the stomach or any other part of the body. Whenever that does come up, just consciously imagine that you're taking your breath into the place of blockage, and then just moving that blockage and energy down into the cauldron, into the stomach area. So it might be uncomfortable, it might be painful emotions coming up, or thoughts that distract you, whatever. Take your breath through that, and then just take it down into the cauldron. And again, by the end of the session, all of that stuff, all of that discomfort, whatever, should shift, and you'll be in a place of connection, of inspiration, and of course of transmutation and healing. The breathing can be through the nose or the mouth. My suggestion is that you try through the nose, because the breathing through the nose is a sort of a more refined breath. It kind of takes the breath in through the pineal gland, and it kind of purifies it and then takes it into the body. But nose breathing and mouth breathing are kind of different. The mouth breathing takes you into a more raw experience of your emotions or of your physical aspect. The nose breathing relates more to the ethereal, spiritual aspect. So you might find that at some point the energy is heavy and it's difficult to move. At that point, you might want to breathe more through the mouth to sort of make it more visceral and take it down into your stomach. At other times, you might feel you want to be uplifted, so then you can breathe more through the nose. But I will guide you through that throughout this process. So now we'll just take a 2-minute break for you to set up your bed. I do suggest that you connect your device to an external speaker if you can, to make the music and so forth louder, and that you can be more immersed in the experience. Also go to the bathroom. If you do need to go to the bathroom during the session, that's fine, but just come back as soon as possible. So we'll take a brief break now, and then we'll see you back in a moment.